welcome to today's episode of the Startups. Today, the purpose of the show is really to help entrepreneurs out there to answer aspiring and budding entrepreneurs to answer some of the pressing questions that you are asking yourselves every day as you venture to build a successful and sustainable business. So today on the program, we're having Sam Day, who is an SEO, a search engine of optimization specialist. So he's going to be coming today to discuss about some of the key areas, what search engine optimization actually is, so how you can actually scale that to build a successful business. So I'd like to introduce Sam. Sam, how you doing?
Hey, that's nice to be here. I'm doing great. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
It's really awesome to have you. So Sam, I know you're SEO specialist, right? But before we actually go too deep into what SEO is, how entrepreneurs can make the most of SEO, can you just give us an insight as to what actually makes you an entrepreneur? What led you down the route of the entrepreneurial route, and why did you choose to specialize in SEO?
Oh, awesome. Thanks, Tolu. So my entrepreneurial journey started back when I was 17. I started my first business whilst I was still in college. I'm a musician at heart, so I played the saxophone. So my first business was teaching music. I was running dance, drama, and music academies across the UK, but I wasn't able to get that business profitable. And it wasn't until university where I came online. That's when I started my journey on the internet. And I started in e-commerce. So for those of you who might not know, that's basically selling products on the internet. So I was selling physical products, and it was my first time really seeing success. So within 3 months, I built a business that was turning over $1,000 a week in sales and revenue, and I was still in university. So when I left university the following year, I realized I don't want to do anything else. I want to focus on being online. And I knew I didn't really want to specialize in e-commerce or selling physical products because it's just a lot of manual labor. And I just felt like there was more inside of me. So I went on to study marketing and also start my brand, which is Day Tips, my YouTube channel, my Instagram page. And through those channels, I speak about, so SEO is one of the topics that I specialize in, but I also speak about email marketing, Facebook ads, all pay-per-click marketing, all of this kind of stuff that a business will need to kind of kickstart online. And through producing content, I've been discovered by LinkedIn. So I now work with them to produce courses on LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com. Also, I've had the opportunity to work with companies like Wix.com as well, the website building platform, and currently in working with Fiverr as well. So it's been an amazing journey from 17, and 10 years later, I turned 27 at the tail end of last year. So it's been an amazing 10 years, and I'm excited to kind of push forward.
That's really amazing. That's an inspiring story. You sound like a very successful young professional, and that's really inspiring out there. So I think one of the key things there is once you've found something that you're good at. I think one of the things that people struggle with and why people shy away from entrepreneurship is they have been conditioned to go to university to get a job. And that sometimes puts a cap on their potential. And most of them go into a 9-to-5, become frustrated, sometimes even get fired. Their confidence take a knock in, and then they end up working for Tesco or McDonald's. So you understand what I mean? So I think that's the story you just shared, that backdrop you've given there is very inspiring. So let's go right into it. So SEO, what is SEO all about, and how can businesses make the most of it?
Awesome. Great question. So SEO is, my definition of it is the art of being found online. So it's manipulating your website and your presence on the internet in such a way that appeases the major search engines such as Google, Yahoo, and Bing. So nowadays, we can't really get away from SEO. YouTube is a search engine. We go to YouTube 9 times out of 10 and we search for whatever it is we're looking for, whether it's a new music video, whether it's a how-to video, and the same with Google as well. So if you are an electrician, you want your business to show up in Google when someone is searching for a local electrician in your area. So search engine optimization is basically literally optimizing your website so that you can show up for the keywords that your potential customers are searching for using Google. And Google and the other search engines, they're progressing so much nowadays. Technology is advancing. So it's about, can you stay relevant? Can you update your website and make sure that you're the business that is being found on the internet?
Amazing. I mean, one of the good things about the digital age, I think we're now moving into the AI age right now, is that it's kind of creating a level playing field. So the barriers to entry as a new entrepreneur is slowly diminishing, because you have, what would cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds or even millions of pounds for you to reach a customer, or even present yourself as a credible business to a customer and gain their trust, is now you can do it with less than a few £1,000s, right? So there's a lot of opportunity out there. But what are the kind of technical things that entrepreneurs would need to put in place in order to leverage this opportunity? So for example, I'm an author, right? I've written about 5 books or so. One of the things that I struggle with is being found. So how do I, as an author, present myself so that if someone searches my book or searches something relating to my book, I'm one of the first few people that come out as a credible authority on that particular subject area? And similar to any entrepreneur, for example, you mentioned the plumber or an electrician, how do I kind of position myself using the SEO approach to make myself found online?
Yeah, so I'll go with the author example first, and then I'll go to more of like the service or product-based business. Sure. So let's say you are a writer and that's what you do. A lot of authors make the mistake of thinking that their writing is their content marketing. That's their pinnacle thing, and all they have really is the product that they have for sale. So if I was to write a novel today and expect it to sell, but I haven't written any content on the internet elsewhere, it's going to be difficult for me to really generate sales, for people to take me seriously, for people to see me as an authority. And this goes the same with the search engines as well. Like Google, they don't know who you are. And one thing that we have to remember about Google, this is the most important thing, is that Google are a business as well. A lot of times we think, oh, Google don't want to show us, or they're against us. No, Google's objective is they want to show the best results possible. That's how they stay the best in the game. That's why they're the #1 website in the world, is because we use Google because they show us the best websites. If they start showing us dodgy websites, all of a sudden, everyone's going to go to Yahoo, and all of a sudden Google is out of business. So you need to prove to Google that your website, your product, your service, your book is high authority and is actually quality that people will benefit from. And one of the ways to do that is to be writing as well as just having the book. So let's just give a random example. If you was writing about mental health, for example, and you wrote a book and you wanted to sell that book, then you need to kind of also have like miniaturized content as well that helps you to build an audience, and it builds authority in your industry. So you might take to LinkedIn. There's websites like medium.com. You might even start a YouTube channel where you're speaking about mental health, giving out content and letting the world know that, wait a minute, you're an expert in this field. And then when you're linking back to your website via your YouTube videos, via your LinkedIn page, Google can actually see these links. So, they're not invisible links. Google will be like, wow, this person's got 100,000 followers on LinkedIn and they're linking back to this website. They're going to attribute authority back to the website you're linking to. And as well as this, when you're producing all of this content, it establishes you as an authority in your niche. You get picked up by major companies as well. And that attributes more authority to your name. So I mentioned that I've done work with Fiverr, with Wix, with LinkedIn. They've all discovered me not because of my paid courses or my consulting services. They've discovered me through my free content that I put out on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on YouTube, on my blog. So you kind of need to be building out that content as a way to kind of build authority, if that makes sense. And then you have an audience, people who will listen to you, and that's how you get your name out there. That's how you sell. In terms of if you're a plumber or you're a service-based business, it's the same kind of thing, but slightly different. So what you want to be doing is thinking about your target customer. Who is it that you're trying to reach? Who is it that's going to buy into your product or into your service? And what pain points do they have? And can you create content around that, if that makes sense? So if you can create content around that, establish yourself as an authority again within your niche. You're not just a product or a service owner. If you sell, for example, you might sell hair. So maybe you sell weave, for example. You can't just sell weave nowadays, you know, if you want to actually do well in the search engines and build a brand. But you need to be the go-to person, the go-to expert about weave. What's the best weave to buy? How to condition your hair? What not to do to your hair? You need to be the expert in your niche, and you need to become so good at it that Google are like, we have to index this particular website, this particular company, this particular person, because they are putting out information and they are an expert in their field. We want our users to find them in the search engines. So that's the key thing, really.
That's amazing. So basically, you're talking about the other activities that you do on other social media platforms kind of feed into a search engine optimization websites like Google, Bing, and the rest of them. So, for example, even your Facebook posts, your consistency in the kind of content that you share. So that means there needs to be some form of a social media strategy when it comes to social the SEO optimization kind of a thing. Okay, so in terms of that, I'm also guessing that will involve, for example, blogging as well, and vlogging, like you mentioned. Are there keywords that you need to use in order for you to be easily found? So apart from whilst implementing those sharing those content across the social media platforms that you've mentioned, are there keywords that people actually look for that will make it easier for you to be found?
Yeah, great question. So keywords are basically the words, the sentences that people would type into the search engine to find a piece of content, to find a product, or to find a service. So again, if I was looking for a plumber, and I'm based in Croydon, so I might go to Google and type in plumbers in Croydon. So that's a keyword. And if you are a plumber in Croydon, then you want to make sure that your website shows up when someone typed in that specific keyword. And there are a number of things to keep in mind if you want to show up for keywords that are relevant to you. Firstly, you want to have that keyword in your URL. So, you know, my website is daytips.com, and then you can have / whatever it is. So / would be the page that I'm on. So you want to create a dedicated page for the keywords that you want to be ranked for, if that makes sense. Another thing to keep in mind is that the more pages you have on your website, the more opportunities you have to be found in search. So Google, this is a mistake that people make as well. They think that Google just rank entire websites, but they don't. What they do is they will rank individual web pages. Okay. So what that means is if you have 100 pages, then you have essentially 100 unique opportunities to be found in the search engines for a different keyword. So you can optimize each of those 100 pages for a different keyword, and hopefully some of them will rank and some of them might not do as well. You might want to optimize them a little bit better, and so on and so forth. So this is why I always recommend, you know, creating a blog, because a blog allows you to kind of create new pages create new posts consistently on different keywords. So yeah, you want to make sure you have the keyword in your URL. Make sure you have your keyword in the title of your page and in your description as well. Use variations of it as well in your on your description. And then you also have something called a meta title and a meta description tag. It sounds complicated, but whatever platform you're using to create your website, WordPress, Wix, Weebly, Squarespace, Shopify, they have a section where it shows you a preview of how your page will show in the search engines. And all you have to do is edit the title, edit the description, and make sure that they contain your keywords. And this just gives search engines information about what your page is about. If you don't have your keywords on your page, then Google are not going to know that that's what the page is about. So yeah, that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. And just lastly on that point as well, there's a tool called the Google Keyword Planner tool.
Okay.
I've done a YouTube video on it because it can be difficult to like sign up for it. But if you go to YouTube, type in Sam Day Google Keyword Tool, and then I'll show you how to kind of use it for free. And that basically shows you the keywords that are popular, how many people are searching for it, and so on and so forth. And another website is answerthepublic.com. That gives you keyword suggestion ideas, and you can start creating content. So if you are a plumber and you don't know what content to start writing about, what keywords to focus on, then type plumber into answerthepublic.com, and it will show you a range of different questions that people have on the internet, and you can start answering those one by one in your blog articles.
That makes a lot of sense. So in terms of the keywords, I know you've already mentioned, I think I was going to ask you a question which you've already answered in terms of where do you go and find the popular keywords and so on and so forth. Now, are there any myths surrounding keywords? Like, for example, you need to mention your keywords 5 times on your page or a certain number of times on your page in order for Google to pick it up. Are there any myths regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of myths, and to be 100% honest, Google are always constantly changing their algorithm and how they read content. But I think one of the things that probably won't change is you definitely want to, there's no real number. Every SEO person will have a different way of doing things, and there's no right or wrong, but there are extremely wrongs, but there's no real right or wrong. As a rule of thumb, I try to at least make sure I've got the keywords in my title, exact match keywords. So that means if I'm trying to rank for plumber in Croydon, then I want to have daytips.com/plumber-in-Croydon in my URL. I also go for exact keyword in my title as well. And when it comes to the actual body of the content, whether that be a sales page, if you're selling a product, or whether it just be an about us page or whatever it is, I try to use my keyword at least 2 times. And then I use my variation, 3 or 4 times, a variation of the keyword. Because once you've used your keyword twice on a page, Google kind of already know, okay, cool, the word is there now.
Yeah.
Using it 100 times doesn't necessarily
make a difference.
Yeah, it doesn't improve it. In fact, it can actually have a negative, impact on your SEO if you overuse it, and Google might see this and be like, oh, this person's trying to game the system. So you want to kind of make your content read natural. That's the main thing. Is if it reads natural to your website visitors, then that's great. If it feels organic for you to use a keyword in a certain place, then put it there. If it doesn't feel organic and it feels like you're just forcing it there, then don't use it. Use a variation or use it somewhere else. But Google are super focused on user experience. Is your content related, and is it helpful to the user? Not just writing it for the search engines. And if you think about the user when you're creating your content as well, then it's likely you're gonna see improvements with your SEO.
So that means a good chance for you to be successful at having a strong online presence is for you to be user orientated, right?
100%. Yeah.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. Now, in terms of Google's focus and Google always changing the algorithm, I know that YouTube does the same thing as well. I think YouTube is owned by Google, right? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm right in my assumption. Okay, cool. So that means they kind of follow the same trend in how they approach this, just to make sure that, I think recently YouTube changed their algorithm as well to make it a bit difficult for curators to game the system. Are there any drawbacks if Google identifies that a particular content provider or website is trying to game the system? Do they block the website, for example? Are there penalties that
Yeah,
occur?
there's definitely penalties. So yeah, penalties can be very difficult to overturn as well.
Mhm.
So you want to try and make sure you're doing the right kinds of things in terms of SEO. And if you hire an SEO company or an SEO person,
Mhm.
then you want to make sure that person knows what they're doing, because if they do things wrong, it can be really difficult to kind of get back in favor with the search engines, especially Google. And it goes so deep to the point where if you have a domain name, so again, mine is daytips.com. If I was doing a lot of, bad things and tricking the
Mhm.
system and stuff like that, and then Google banned me, and then I just got rid of the domain name and I went to another domain name,
Mhm.
someone else who buys that domain name after me, there's a potential that their website can actually suffer because my domain name has such a bad connotation to it. So even though
Okay.
I didn't do it, so you need to kind of, be aware of that it can be something that's affects you in the long term as well. And think about this when you're buying your domain name. If you're noticing, wow, my website is just not showing up, then see if you can, research the history of that domain name, because it could have penalties. Now that's a rare occurrence, that does happen, but that's how far these penalties can go. And in terms of like checking that you're in good stead with Google, you want to make sure that you register for a Google Search Console account. It's completely free to register,
Okay.
and that allows you to kind of like tell Google, you look, this is my website, so you can claim your website, and you go through a few authentication, like an authentication process, so that they can prove you own the site. And then after that, when you log in, it will show you any errors that are currently occurring on your website, so you can go in and fix it. And a good thing about this as well is if you give them an email, if you use an email that you check
Mhm.
often,
Yeah.
if Google are having any issues with your site, they'll ping you an email and say, hey, look, your site has got malware on it or something like that, and so it's currently not being indexed. If you
Mhm.
fix the issue, and then we'll index you again. If they're having issues crawling a certain page on your site, then they'll notify you as well. So yeah, just a few key things to keep in mind.
That's really amazing. So the Google console is a way for you to even know, for example, if you've been fined and so on and so forth. So an example of the fine would be them banning you from Google forever, right?
Yeah, that would be an extreme case.
Okay.
And another website is Bing Webmaster Tools.
Okay.
So that will basically does the same thing as Google Search Console, but it
Mhm.
just tells you your information in Yahoo and Bing as well. So, and
Okay.
Yahoo and Bing are
Same company.
yeah, the same. Yeah.
Similar. Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes a lot of sense. So in terms of searching for the history of a domain name, how do we go about doing that? Are there websites that we could go to explore that?
I don't know any specific websites, but
Yeah.
if you type in the domain name in Google, then you should see like a history, because normally if a website has um, if a website has a history, especially if it's a bad or a good history, it will have
Yeah.
some sort of footprint.
Mm.
So there will be some websites, even if the domain has been deleted, there'll be some websites that still link to it, and it might just link to an error page. You can go to, I can't remember the name of the website now, but if you go to Google and you type in link checker or backlink checker, then you'll
Mm.
see like there's loads of websites that will help you to see backlinks basically. And if you type the website that you're about to buy into the backlink checker, it will show you, are there any websites pointing to this website already? And
Yeah.
if there are, then that probably means someone was using it before and they used, dodgy links and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So that's one way of doing it.
That makes a lot of sense. I think just to kind of round up today's program, one of the things I think you've mentioned is that in order for you to improve your chances of being found online, you need to have other content that you put out there, that feeds into the SEO searches. Also, you need to make sure that your keywords, you need to make sure you're using the right keywords to find the popular keywords that are being used that relate to your content, and ensure that at least they're used twice in the URL and the title. But be careful not to try to gain the system, because the more you try to gain the system, then Google finds you out, or other search engines find you out, and they could, at an extreme length, stop indexing you. And even I think on a cautious part as well, it's always good for you to do your research before you buy your domain. I think this might be something that a lot of people out there may not know, that, hey, before you buy a domain, why don't you do your research on that domain so that you don't put money down the drain, right? Because you might be surprised that no matter what you do, no matter the amount of SEO specialists you hire, your website is just not showing up. And you wouldn't know why, right? You might just give up and say, hey, SEO doesn't work for me, but that's not necessarily true. Something has actually gone wrong, right? So I think, do you have any final words or nuggets that you can share with entrepreneurs when it comes to being found online?
Final words, just to kind of like really wrap up what I was saying, really is content is king. So you want to be producing content. It should be a part of your kind of weekly routine, is to get some content out. YouTube is an incredible platform. It's actually the second largest search engine in the world. And not enough people know this, but if you're struggling to rank for a particular keyword that will bring revenue for your business, if you're struggling to rank for your website, then optimize a YouTube video for that. And it's far easier to rank in YouTube than it is to rank a website in Google, because there's just not as much competition right now. And you need far less, like backlinks to that video and stuff like that. So you can actually have a video that ranks in Google and beats all of the natural search results in Google. It can rank above all of your competition, especially if they're not creating video. And if you're a local business as well, then, even better, because very, very, very few local businesses are actually creating videos and trying to optimize them and rank them in Google and in YouTube. So a lot of people are like, I don't want to be on camera and stuff like that, but it can generate you business. So if you're serious about driving business, back to your website, then, you're going to want to get serious about creating content, being on camera, and, creating YouTube videos. So yeah, that's my final tip is YouTube and Google kind of go hand in hand for a kind of cohesive SEO strategy.
Okay, so just a question: is the ranking tantamount to the number of views that you've generated?
No, in fact, it's the way YouTube SEO works is slightly different to like a normal website. So YouTube, they take into consideration something called watch time. So that's the amount of time someone spends consuming your video. So you can have 1 million views, but people only watch for like 2 seconds. And if that is the case, then YouTube won't rank that. They'll be like, this is a low quality video, because although it's got a lot of views, no one watches it. Maybe, people use, clickbait thumbnails and titles. And when you actually click on it, it's not what you wanted. So whenever you're doing YouTube, you want to make sure that the content is really, really good, because it doesn't matter if you have a small amount of views, you can still rank really high if people are actually consuming a lot of your content. And they want people to stay on the platform as well. So if you have related videos and you link to those related videos and you mention those videos in your YouTube video, then that can help people to stay on the platform, and YouTube will reward you with that.
Amazing. Sam, I think you've given me another idea for the show, which is to create stock explore in the future. So thank you so much for your time, Sam.
Awesome.
And just to kind of conclude today, thanks for listening out there to the startups. If you want to reach out to Sam, we'll put the links down there for you to be able to reach out. I think he's mentioned some of the social media and those prior, but we'll make sure that those links are available and on his website as well. Please make sure you take advantage of the courses that Sam has already done on LinkedIn, on Linda, and on YouTube as well. And I'm sure you'll be really inspired and be able to leverage them to build a successful business, because that is the whole point of what we're doing. Until next time on the Startups, see you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you for watching today's episode of the Startups. It is my hope that has been both inspiring and insightful. Here at the Startups, we are committed to helping you to build successful and sustainable businesses that will provide the jobs for the future. This is why we are proud of our partnership with the Business Enablement Tool. It is a digital business consultant that helps you provide the ongoing support that you need to build a successful business. We're also committed to helping you to raise the capital that you need to actually take the first step to start your business. And that is why we are proud of our partnership with Transit Loan and the government-backed startup loan to help you to raise up to £25,000 in startup capital. For more information on this, please see the description below. To stay connected with us, please like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. Please also hit the notification icon, the bell, so that you can always get notified once a new startup show comes out. Till next time, see you next week.